All right, looks like we're live. Let me check. How's it going, T Mac?
Wonderful. How about yourself?
It's going pretty good. Pretty excited about getting my desk set up. I got my desk and chair delivered yesterday, so I'm just gonna build it later on in the day. Uh, I don't know. I don't know if you remember in Japan that it's rainy season right around this time.
Yes, I think I recall.
Yeah. So I got my plants got a nice douse of water. I was gonna feed them, but plants on
Mhm.
the balcony got their quenched. So yeah, man. Let me pull up the questions that I uh I sent you ahead of time. And so basically, there's a lot to cover. So I think it's pretty cool that you have experience both in Japan and in Colombia. And it seems like you love Colombia a lot. But I guess first, do you want to introduce yourself or get straight into it?
Yes, my name is Terence Mack. I'm from the Los Angeles area, actually Orange County, California, but I say LA because most people outside of California probably are not familiar.
Mm,
I've been in Colombia a little bit over 2 years, and before that,
mm,
I've been to about 40 different countries. I worked in corporate America as engineering manager and also chief engineer and program manager in aerospace industry.
mm.
So I had to retire early because of some medical issues.
Okay.
So, and before that, spent some time, a little bit of time living in Japan. I've been there about 60 plus times
Mm,
and other parts of Asia. So I love Japan too. And that was one of my choices that I would have had if I was a place to like relocate to. But as we know, um, as a retirement place, it's not the most, I guess, say, affordable place.
mm.
But so I chose Colombia for several different reasons.
All right.
And one of those reasons was that the medical care here is very good.
All right.
The proximity to the United States is pretty close, so I can go
Mm,
back and forth on a monthly basis.
all right.
So usually 1 month here, 1 month in the U.S. and back and forth.
Mm,
And also the barrier of entry to a business is a lot easier and lower than the United States. So Colombia has a lot of positives, and also we'll probably get into some of the challenges too here.
all right. Cool. Cool. So, so I guess like when we look at Colombia, um, I guess we got to break it down city by city, right? Or like, how would you do you
I
feel
would
like yeah.
I would say Medellin because that's probably one of the most expensive cities,
Mm,
and if you can, most of the other cities will be lower,
mm,
including Bogota in most cases.
mm. All right.
So I can give you a range. The
All right.
Medellin would be on the higher end.
All right. So like if I wanted so I mean I guess before we get into the affordability, so like I guess for someone like me who doesn't really know too much, I've never been to Colombia. Like what are the benefits of like why would I want to be in Colombia in the first place?
So as we blanket wise, the affordability in terms of like the cost of living with rent, with
Mm,
utilities, with mobile phone,
right.
groceries, and also transportation
Mm,
as relatively affordable. If you ask the local Colombian that question, they would not say so. But for an expat, it will be affordable because basically $2,000 in Medellin will give you a good quality of life. You can go
okay.
lower and you can go higher, but you should be able to live comfortably with 2,000 a month. On the higher end, 2,500 a month, you can live very well. And on the lower end, I would say about maybe 1,700. So between 1,700 on the low end and about 2,500 on the high end. You can go higher than that if you want, but those are some high, medium, and low ranges.
Mm, let's see. So like I guess What's the so like I know we talked about the cost there, but like one of the questions I had was like, what's it like over there? Like I guess like for a guy traveling, because it looks like a lot of expats, especially
Mhm.
guys, are looking to go to Colombia. Like what's it like over there, like food wise, dating wise, with the ladies, etc.
Okay. I'll talk generally, not specifically about
Right,
myself, but from what my knowledge is.
right.
So food wise, I would not say that Colombia, the food here is pretty fresh.
Mm,
I would not say it's the most flavorful, but some people like it, some people don't. If you're into spicy food, it's probably you might not enjoy it as much.
okay.
So the cuisines here, and I would say Medellin, the food I've tasted here is not as you don't have as much variety, or I would say the food in Bogota would be probably better. Bogota has nicer restaurants
Right.
in the regard, very nice ambiance, but
Mm,
the affordability of like restaurants um, is, let's say, a high-end Colombian restaurant. Um, let's say on the high end, you might spend with a couple of people like maybe like $100
right.
or at a high end.
Mm,
You can go to a local, like cafe and spend, of course, a lot less than that, maybe
mm,
$30 for two people. Um, and so, just like any other place, but to give you a comparison, I went to San Diego and I met a friend there. We went to a restaurant. It was $250 for just two people, and then we
mm,
only had one dish, and the rest was appetizers. And I don't drink, but he drank a couple of drinks, and it was like $250. So it'll be hard to accomplish that with two people within Colombia. Now, this is talking about Medellin. If you go to a place like Cali, it would be which I just returned from this weekend.
mm,
More affordable, and we had so much food that the dish I ordered from Cali, it would probably take me like a couple of days to finish it. So it
mm,
was quite a bit, and I would say the quality was good. So I would say, and if you're talking about groceries in terms of food, so the groceries would be less expensive. I'm trying to think of like for imported foods, you might not you probably won't get much of a discount, but for local foods,
mm.
um, I'm trying to think about percentage wise cheaper. It would be cheaper by, it could be as much as half, or maybe it might be three-quarters of the cost of could be less, but it depends on what you buy. So imports are going to be the same price, or sometimes imports are a little bit more expensive because I think they have some tariffs on things. Now, if you were to go out for, so one of the positives I would say is entertainment. There's always lots to do, and there's
Mm,
a healthy culture here. So on
right.
the Sundays they have, I think it's called Ciclovia,
Mm,
where they'll shut down some major streets in the big cities like
right.
Medellin, Bogota, and
Right.
only biking, jogging, and walking, things of that nature are allowed. So
Mm,
in Colombia is very health conscious when it comes to their physique.
mm,
So it's geared this the culture here is very out more geared towards the outdoors.
mm.
Um, Now one of the other questions I think you brought up was about like for a man,
Right.
dating wise.
Right.
I would say it's very good for single men,
Mm,
and I don't want to. So I like the before I talk about women. So
mm.
my purpose was I've been a traveler. I think my first, I don't count Mexico
Okay.
because California borders Mexico, but my first international trip to Europe was the year 2000, I believe.
Right.
So I've been traveling, to many different countries, maybe about 40 since then.
Mm,
And before I came to Colombia and before I even got my visa, I
mm.
started a corporation here. So my purpose is business because I believe that once you get your financial house in order, and if your goal is to stay in the country, you should
Right.
develop the revenue streams to be able to support your lifestyle. And it
Right.
just happens that Colombia. would not require as many revenue streams as a place like Japan would, because Japan is a lot more expensive.
Right.
Now, with that being said, um, dating, I would say you might is somewhat the opposite of the U.S. in some ways, where
Right.
age doesn't matter as much. So as
Right.
like as a person who's middle aged,
Right.
your dating tends to go down, your options as you get older. But
When you
here in
say it tends to go down, are you talking about like in America or like
the United States,
okay.
so United States, let's say versus Colombia and other Latin American and South American countries,
Right.
it actually it doesn't, because they don't have the age stigma or the age bias.
Hmm.
So it's normal to see couples with like I say a 20-year age gap. It's not a big deal. And if you ask a local Colombian, do you think this is strange seeing a person with a 20 or 30-year age gap?
Right.
They were like, no. They're confused why you would ask them a question, because they
Hmm.
don't. It's not part of their culture in most cases.
Hmm.
And I would say the women here tend to have a certain level of. It could be because it's a developing country. They tend to be more serious minded when they look at relationships. It's not a hookup culture. Um,
Right.
so when a woman, sometimes when they date you,
Hmm.
they'll they're kind of thinking long term, and
Right.
so they'll look at they tend to go for men, even though you might not be the youngest, might not be in the best shape, or they think you have like more financial stability. Not trying to picture them as like gold diggers or anything like that,
Right.
but it's just like a natural in any country. One of the things that women look for is financial stability. They look for the health in a partner and things of that nature.
Right.
So dating's scene would be good for I would say all ages, but it would be better for older men. Let's say 35 and up.
So younger men like under 35, not really, you wouldn't recommend Colombia?
I wouldn't say I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't. I would say the wrong reason to come to Colombia is just for the women.
Why is that?
Because if you just come for the you can go anywhere from women to Colombia, DR, if that's all you want to do.
Hmm.
And there's getting a lot of pushback on that from the let's say from the mayor, and
Hmm.
they like tourism, they like people to come for culture,
Hmm.
but if the focus is just to come from the with women, that's somewhat of a pushback against that, because they don't want Colombia to be known for just foreigners coming here for that purpose.
Hmm.
Um, so the mayor, is kind of made that clear. There's been some negative press about foreigners engaging in certain activities, and also um, people. And I'm not saying that that should not be in your overall plan,
Right.
but you get more out of it if you actually pick a country for the culture and the
Right.
lifestyle, and to have peace. To me,
Hmm.
peace is one of the most important things, and
Right.
like affordability,
Hmm.
and that you don't want to just take, but you want to actually contribute to the society that you're living in. You get a lot more out of it, and
Right.
you'll meet real relationships. And as I mentioned, Colombia is not really a hookup culture, and I would say Medellin
Interesting.
is not. It will be very difficult to. It's more difficult in Medellin than some other cities of making serious long-term friendships.
Okay.
So the average Colombian woman is not like the U.S. You go to meet her at a club, or you meet them at a party,
Hmm.
and most of the women that you're going to make a long-term relationship with, you probably won't meet them in that manner. You might meet them at the grocery store, or even like the dentist's office or the doctor's office, just a normal day, because the women here are very approachable,
Right.
and they don't take offense to a lot of things that women in the United States would.
Right.
So they don't. You see, feminism is not as deeply rooted in Colombia
Hmm.
as in
Okay.
the United States. So women here are very approachable, and
Hmm.
they spend a lot of time on their appearance.
Hmm.
They're not as much into a lot of designer fashion that people from the U.S. might think is like a plus to
Right.
wear. Designer wear. They don't care. They want you to just look, clean, smell good, take care of your hygiene, things of that nature, and just to like look neat and not look raggedy. And so a woman will talk to you, and if they're not interested, they'll let you down nicely. They won't be rude or anything like that. And they look at a lot of the. I have a lot of, I would say, like female friends that
Right.
like are non-romantic, and many of them happen to just be beautiful.
Mm.
Um, we hang out, we go salsa dance and things of that nature.
Mm.
And I met some quality people. Not as many in Medellin, but mostly in Bogota. They
Right.
tend to be so they have different regional names where they call people. So Medellin is located in a area called Antioquia, and
All right.
so they call the people here Paisas, and they call the people in Bogota Rolos. So it's
Okay.
kind of funny. They kind of talk about each other, and like just like West Coast versus East Coast.
Okay. All right. So kind of like a Kansai versus Kanto thing in Japan.
Yes, or like when I was in like Shikoku, they would consider that the country. They have that view of people like Shikoku, oh, from country. When you mention somebody, tell somebody in Tokyo,
Right.
and so it's similar to that. They have a view of Paisas versus Caleños in like Cali and Costeños in the
Right.
coast. But I just happened to meet deeper friendships with people in Bogota. So when I go there, they want to display like their friendship. They want to pick me up from the airport and drop me off, and
That's
they'll
cool.
like make sure that when we go out salsa dancing, they insist that they all make sure I get to my hotel safely. So they'll like ride with me in the cab, make sure I get to my hotel, and then I'll see them off in their taxis to go home, things of that nature. So they're and I really appreciate that level. And when you
Mm.
do make a friendship in Colombia, it's pretty close
Mm.
and it's very family oriented. So one of the ways to know if it's a deeper relationship with a woman is if she introduces you to her family and her friends, because family is like everything. And so as you meet people,
Mm.
they'll invite you to their family fincas. So
Mm.
fincas like another name for like a farm area. A lot of them are rural. They don't have some of them don't have running water, electricity, but they just the Colombians don't care. That's they just love being with their family, and no matter what the conditions, and they have a very warm relationship, something that's kind of been missing in the U.S. as we've developed as a country. So that's to me, that's very to me, it's a kind of warm part of the culture that I enjoy. And one of the things I insist on is when I have employees. I have 3 employees.
All right.
So when I hire them, I usually have like dinner or lunch with their family members.
Mm.
And I've so all the employees that I've actually done that with, I've had the best performance because their family they put pressure on them, on their members to perform well and not to embarrass the family, and that we met your boss. He's a good man to invite us all to dinner and things like that. So you need to treat him well. So that means a lot to people in Colombia.
Mm.
Now I've had some other employees where I didn't meet their family, and I've had to let many of them go, and
Mm.
many have been in Medellin. So I've had difficulty meeting some good employees in Medellin. Not saying that they don't exist. People in Medellin are warm and friendly, but I've had troubles in that regard. Sometimes some of the people in Medellin are somewhat laid back.
Mm.
So that's just something that you know about Colombia that you can't discount like their family because they take that very seriously.
Mm. So I guess so so I know you spent a lot of time in Medellin, and then I have a friend who's been living in Medellin for a few years here now. And obviously he loves it, or else he would have like transferred his job or company or something. But I feel like for like the guys who identify as passport bros, they like Colombia a lot. So why is that the case? Am I just not like I don't watch a ton of videos on it. I'm just like seeing the headlines. Is that the case or Yeah, what's the situation with that?
From what I'm seeing, Colombia is one of the number one topic, between people who call themselves passport bros.
Right.
Um, talking about, I don't call myself. I tried to give the movement the benefit of the doubt, so I'm not going to say anything negative about it. But I
Right.
think since it's been associated with black men, I'm pretty protective of the image of black people worldwide. So I have joined passport bro groups just to
Mm.
find out more about them. And I like to go with the definition that a passport bro is somebody who's looking for maybe a long-term relationship
Mm.
abroad, and to date more feminine women and that nature. I'm
Mm.
not really while I see a lot of channels who
Mm.
consider passport bros uh, and associate them more with as I'll make sure what the terminology I use. The um, tourists that look for like I guess pay for play or something like that, and that's not something that I think that the people who are truly passport bros travel for. And the reason I try to make that distinction because I've seen some locals here in Medellin, they're very hostile. They blame passport bros for everything, and I
Interesting.
don't like painting anybody with a broad brush. So, and it tends to give sometimes black men like to be looked upon negatively, and they automatically assume that you're just kind of a this other passport bro who's only coming just to because the pay for play is legal in Colombia. It's not something it's not illegal.
Mm.
However, it's not something that the city wants to be known for, and the mayor has made that known.
So
But
it's the pay for play thing that's probably making Colombia popular,
I think that's one thing because I see a lot of videos.
I won't say popular, but like talked about online a lot. Like, what is it, about Colombia? Because like my friend in Colombia, he has a girlfriend there. He's pretty
Mhm.
straight. I don't think he's ever been like a pay for play type of guy. Like he's always had like nice girlfriends in the state in America before moving to Colombia. So like, yeah, I want to know what like because I know what I like here in Japan, and
Right.
I know I've met some nice women from South America and America in New York. Well, yeah, I just don't like my friend has a YouTuber who's in Medellin that you also know, and then that guy. I think when I looked up his channel, I found other channels in Colombia, but it's just like I don't really get it as like obviously the name of my channel is called Passport Man,
Mhm.
so I know it sounds like Passport Bros, kind of a little bit, but because it's got the passport in it, but Um, yeah, I really want to know like what the situation like. Even in America, if guys want to do pay for play, I think it's probably legal in like Vegas or Nevada or something.
It's regulated there, I believe. I've never engaged in it there, or
Right.
I've engaged in it here. In fact, so there's a couple. There's some areas here that are very popular, like let's say Parqueyeras. I've never been there,
All right.
but people talk about a lot. A lot of expats who live here long term, they don't really go to that area because that's where a lot of the working ladies are to meet men, and like I said, is legal, and then the mayor has kind of clamped down on that. And
Right.
I just want to make it clear, I'm not trying to attack people who call themselves passport bros because I take people from their word. If they want to, look for love abroad, there's nothing wrong with that
Mm.
because I don't
Mm.
believe that love has any borders. When I
Right.
was in Japan, I dated people in Japan. When I was
Right.
in other places, I dated people there. But
Mm.
it just kind of it does bother me when people take this the movement, I guess
Mm.
you could say, and try to and it's not just one demographic or ethnic group,
Mm.
but the negative parts of that get associated with
Mm.
black men, and that's the part I don't like. If somebody wants to call themselves a passport bro, that's fine. But I
Right.
just I just don't like all of the some of the other non-black expats here, every time you see like a lot of the videos where they're interviewed, they say, "Oh, we can't stand all these passport bros," everything, and they said it's a
Oh,
specific
who's saying
demographic.
that? Other expats or?
It was some expats. In fact, I was watching like a local YouTuber in Medellin, and
Mm,
he interviewed two expats in a row in Medellin, and they specifically said all these passport bros in a specific demographic. And I believe that he was referring to black men, and that's what I do take offense to, because
interesting.
I'm a black man who's been traveling with a passport, over 20 something years, mostly
Mm.
for business, and now I just happen to come here for many reasons, affordability, healthcare.
I'm
Uh,
interested. I'm interested to see that clip. Do you know, like, if we try to search it, if we could find it?
um, yes, I do know where you could find it. I just didn't. So the actual channel owner is a friend of mine, so I just didn't want to
Ah, I see. I
put it,
see.
put him on, put his channel on blast like that, because
Right.
he wasn't asking about it.
Right.
He's pretty neutral on it, and
Right.
but just some of the people that he interviewed, what they happen to be non-black, saying things like that, and I don't think that's fair, because I believe if a person stereotypes, they need to take it back themselves. As far
Right.
as like, if you're going to stereotype a black man, then you need to live up to the stereotypes other people might have of your culture too.
Right.
So if I believe that it's perfectly fine, but for people, if they want to actually seriously come, there's a lot of good Colombian women out there, and a lot of them are traditional. They'll
Right.
find, they don't, nothing offensive to the most Colombian women about like doing traditional roles like
Mm.
cooking, cleaning, and looking out for them, man.
Mm.
Uh, but now the people who come for just for let's say the pay for play,
Mm.
that's a different thing, and that's something I personally don't want to be. If people want to do that, they're grown people. I can't tell them what to do, but it's
Right.
just not me. If I want to meet a person locally, I want to, be more of a traditional, and I look at it as a more of a longer term relationship. And
Mm.
my life here is to more of the build
Mm.
financially, build generational wealth for my children, like build an
Mm.
estate where they can be there, could be for generations, and
Mm.
not just to be a temporary place where I come from just to meet women and things of that nature. But like I said, I'm not knocking anybody's lifestyle. If that's what they want to do, they can do that. But just be aware that Medellin is starting to reject a lot of foreign travelers that are coming here. I think last year was like 5,300 or something like that.
Right. Yeah, I think
If
I
you
think
type,
I
look at records and some of the items that they're really concerned about is, and you'll see it if you ever come here with like a family member that's like underage,
mm.
about exploitation of minors. They're really very strict about that. So if you get an Airbnb,
Mm.
and if you're there with like say a person who's like like underage, like let's say you go there with a family, and one's a
Right.
minor, you're gonna have to have documentation that either shows you're the parent, or you're gonna have to have a notarized letter saying that they have permission to be with you. So they're very strict about that. So you'll see that around Airbnbs. So, but
Interesting.
dating with the women here, they take very good care about themselves. Most are very polite. Most of them won't give you like attitude if you approach them.
Mm.
They love to dance. So if it's more reggaeton and things of that nature here in Medellin, if you go to Cali, which I came from, it's more salsa.
Mm.
Bogota might be mixture of all different things, but the
Mm.
social life here, I would say, is very good. I've known people who come here and they've found some long term partners, which they're very happy with. One of my good friends here, he's getting married to a local Colombian woman, and he
Right.
has a newborn, and he's very happy. He's come here and found happiness.
I mean, it's not a surprise. I mean, based on my experience from New York, basically, no matter which country the women came from that I met in New York, they were all pretty cool. So I'm not surprised by that. Have you mentioned before the mayor of Medellin, and like, have you come across this guy's channel, Skylar De Rowan?
Yes, I'm familiar with Skylar. He's out of Brazil, which is it's another beautiful country. I've been to Brazil. I worked there in aerospace.
What do you feel about Brazil versus Colombia?
They have some similarities.
Mm,
I would say Brazil's a much bigger country. I
mm,
think they're over like 250 million people, and
mm,
they have more established big industries, and so they're more integrated, more into the global economy, while Colombia was more closed off for a while.
all right.
And so Colombia and Brazil's had more stability for
Mm,
years, while Colombia went through their dark times
mm,
with the narco type
right.
issues that they were having. So
Right.
Colombia is pretty. Tourism here is more of a relatively newer concept compared to. It wasn't known 20 years as a tourism hotbed. While
Mm,
20 years ago, I was going to Brazil for work. Both
mm,
countries are beautiful, and from what I've seen is that the in both countries the women tend to be very feminine. They take very good care of themselves, their appearance, and also their physique. And this the story from the when I worked with an aerospace company in Brazil,
mm,
they would send people over long term to San Diego, where I lived at,
mm,
and they were totally very I say paranoid about their physique and about their weight.
mm.
So one person would actually track their weight on a spreadsheet, like on a daily or weekly basis.
All right.
That's how and another person, good friend of mine from Rio,
Mm,
uh, when she was weighing herself, I stepped on the edge of the scale, and I
mm.
thought she was going to die of a heart attack until she looked back and then she punched me for scaring her so much. But it's both countries, I recommend, and people might say Colombia is so much more dangerous. Both
Mm,
countries are, considered developing nations, and there's when you have that, you're going to have crime. Brazil has more guns, so in that aspect, has that danger.
mm.
Colombia is known for, some of the instances where people have been drugged or scoped, as they call it.
In Colombia?
Yes, so they have
What do you
scopolamine.
think is what do you think is going on there where they're getting drugged and what do you
Well,
think?
they have this native, this plant. So what they're able to extract a drug called scopolamine or devil's breath. So some people, who've come here and they basically, I consider it like in not all the cases, but many cases, they kind of let their guard down, and
Mm,
they forget that I should say, they're in a different country, and you have to kind of follow the rules like you would in the U.S. You don't just invite random women back to your house.
all
You
right.
don't, they'll be hanging out with like two women, which is very dangerous because as one has your attention, and the other one could be drugging you, and this was actually caught on camera.
Mm,
And I've known local Colombians who've gotten drugged. I know a
mm,
few of them.
mm,
And what they'll do is that you tend to be compliant with their requests. So if they
mm,
want you to go and empty your ATM, you go ahead and do it. If you want them, to let them. And the dangerous part about that is that some people have been overdosed,
mm,
and but it's not all. But some people are demonizing, Colombian women and the people
mm,
for things that happen.
mm,
While I believe there's some self responsibility that needs to be taken. If
mm,
you're going to put yourself in a risky situation, and it's
mm,
not always, like there's nothing absolute in life, but I've
mm,
seen many of the cases, a person's, they go into a club
mm,
and, they, met Colombian women or the worst is on Twitter. There's been actual communication put out by the Medellin Police Department and also the U.S. Embassy
mm,
warning against Twitter because criminal gangs have used that to try to either kidnap or set foreign travelers up, to be drugged and robbed. So that's why, they recommend not to use some of the dating apps. And really, here, if you're here for any amount of time, you really don't need a dating app to meet a woman in Colombia, and you don't need to have a lot of like clever lines. You don't need to be super wealthy or anything like that. Most of them are just like a person who's polite and respectful. And also, they don't look for a person that's like 6 foot tall or more who makes over 200,000 a year and
Actually,
who's in top physical physique. To them,
actually,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead. I actually have a question about that though, because like even in America, when we talk about women
How
who
you
are
doing?
looking for guys who are 6 feet or
I think you get.
like huge muscle, what's that?
I lost you for about 10 seconds.
All right, can you hear me okay now?
Yes, I can hear you in the fine.
All right. So like even in America, I think when people are saying like women want this or you don't have to be this tall or whatever, um, it's kind of hard for me to really follow that because I don't feel that all women subscribe to same thing they want. It really depends on who that woman is, where she is in life, what she wants in life. So like in Japan here, I know if you take the average woman from a weight standpoint, the average woman here is definitely different. And then from a fitness standpoint, what you're saying in Colombia, they might tend to be like more fit or whatever. I'm not sure. But in terms of what women want, um, in America, I think if you go for the certain subset of women that aren't looking for the huge 7 feet and really tall. I feel like that's kind of like just a phase that certain women are in, and it doesn't really represent all women. I mean, or there might be maybe there are women who maybe want a guy to make 6 figures or 7 figures, but maybe they don't want him to be 7 feet or 6'6". But usually, like the women who want like the whole package,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a small minority women or a phase. So like even if you said, okay, women from 18 to 22 who are very attractive are looking for all of that, six this, six that, six that. By the time they reach 23 or whatever, it's like some of the YouTubers say, then they're looking for the other options. So I mean, help me out there. That's how I see things.
Yeah, I have to disagree. In fact, since you have YouTube up, you could just put in like like American Women Delusional Standards or something like that, and you'll see
Okay.
like a unlimited amount of pages that probably pop up.
All
But
right. So all right. So let's break it down because I've seen enough of this
mhm.
to kind of know what you're talking about. But like, what percentage? All right. Let's break it down. So there's two types of women who can be delusional, right? Now, when we talked about the delusional standards, so let me zoom in on here. Okay, let me zoom in on this one. Are women's dating standards delusional, right?
Mhm.
So we got one set. We got you got ladies who tend to be in the more mature age, to put it in lack of a better way, and then they believe that they're still can demand the same level of attention as they were when they were, I don't know, 20. So from that standpoint, or that every guy will be flocking at their feet. Yeah, that's delusional. So, like, but how does that go into the respect of like women in their like 30s, right? And don't get me wrong, like when I've dealt with women in America, especially American women, my what do you call it? My threshold for nonsense is low. So with American women, I never went further beyond a few months of dealing with them
Mhm.
because they act a certain way. But I've definitely never used money to my advantage.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So like the most I ever brought to the table was like maybe decent height, not great height, like 6 feet,
Mhm.
and then maybe decent looking. And I'm not even well groomed. I've never been well groomed. So I don't think I'm like that crazy level that they should be asking for. But like elaborate on this, like the American women. Because there's one thing like continuing a relation. Oh, I think you're talking about relationship delusional, right?
Well, I was doing a comparison between Colombia and the United States
Right.
about the expectations.
Okay.
So when you ask most Colombian women, what would you like a man? How much would you like him to make per month? They would.
Mm.
Most of them would be happy if a man made the approximate of 8 million pesos, which is about $2,000 a month.
Right.
They will be happy with that.
Mm.
While I'm not here to bash American women,
Right.
but and I don't speak in absolutes. You're not saying that this applies to every woman, but
Right.
there is, I would say, a substantial group, that looks for taller men, and that's never been like a secret.
Right.
Because I'm not that tall. I'm
Look,
5'8".
mm.
So,
Right.
and women told me straight up, like I like taller men. I'm on
Right.
heels. I'm taller than you, and
Mm.
but and I would say I've been married for about. I was married for about how many years of my life? 19 years of my
Okay.
life.
Right.
And I dated a lot, so expectation is that some women just wouldn't dig me for my height. Now,
Right.
for the career wise, I would, I did, pretty well, um, and I would say, I was at the considered maybe a high value man in that aspect,
Mm.
but so I wouldn't meet that. But it's something that a large percentage of women look for in the United States, while in Colombia, it's something that the women don't focus on. They more focus on the, whether the man is financially stable,
Mm.
and if he's, whether he's polite, groomed, takes care of himself, and not trying to say that every Colombian woman, is perfect, because I've met some um, challenging ones that I wouldn't want to even be friends with.
Mm.
And I met some who are just like the closest and best friends that you can ever know.
Right.
And same thing in the U.S. I have some female friends there, and even my female friends would tell you that either they like or many of their friends would prefer somebody to be on the top, they to be taller,
Mm.
to maybe be fit, have be a high earner, like a high value person, and it doesn't so I was just trying to say in general that there's a lot more flexibility there when it comes to more of appearance and socioeconomic standards, and that a person who we can consider an average earner in the United States here would be considered a high earner, and they would be so Colombian women, they just don't. Most of them, I can't say all, because there's some who have their own thoughts about it from television or whatever, or
Mm.
dating gringos. But
Mm.
they just, I wouldn't say their standards are lower, but they're more reasonable. They more care about a person who can provide more of a financial security, but they don't have to be like ultra wealthy or anything like that.
Mm. Interesting. How much of that do you think plays in? How much of a factor is like the economics of Colombia with that compared to America? Do you think?
The economics, Colombia,
Yeah,
as
like
opposed to America.
yeah, how they're doing economically, like without men.
Oh, women here. How was a women doing economically without a
Yeah,
man?
so like I think in America you got different subsets. So you got the urban areas where like Los Angeles and New York where people are busting their butt just to survive if they're a single woman.
Hmm.
And then, but surviving for them is just paying the expensive rent and whatnot. But like otherwise, the other option they're looking at, I guess, is welfare but they can still afford to eat decent. They're not in danger. Like they're kind of going to have first world problems if they don't bust their butt. Whereas in Colombia, I'm like, if you look at how a single woman in America's life would be compared to a single woman in Colombia's life, like how would you compare those?
I would say it's difficult in both places.
Okay, how so?
So, but I would say in order, because since Colombia is a developing country, what we think about as being inexpensive, and it's something that it had to be brought to my attention too. So I would think, I have to watch my words because I'm in some private WhatsApp groups which
Okay.
have both there, some melanated groups which have both local Colombians and expats. I would say, wow, this is like so much of a bargain to live at, and that was offensive to some people in Colombia because it might be a bargain for me, but they struggle to get by because the cost of living goes up and up here in Medellin.
Right.
And I see that as a foreigner, like the apartment I rent has gone up like 19% per year since I've moved here about 2 years ago. And so even though, it's less of an impact to me, it could be a game changer to local Colombians who have to move out. So a single woman here, and there's something called a stratos. So there's different stratus. There's a strata system where strata 1 is like the what they do is like they scale the utilities based upon like where you live at. So if you live in El Poblado, which is a strata 5 or 6, that's like the more expensive areas. Lower that is where I live at is like a 5 or maybe some of it's 4, and then you have 1, 2, 3s, which are might be challenging to live at for foreigner. Right. And then you have a 4, which is maybe an average. So for a single woman here is, I think Colombian women, they have to grow up really fast and they have to learn how to make a living using whatever means they can in some aspect. And I'm not saying that in like a negative connotation, but whether it's you'll see people on the street like juggling. They're just trying to. It's a very big hustle culture. People are trying to do what they can just to make a living. But that's something that you don't see in the U.S. as a developing country. They don't have the social net that we have, to catch us. Safety. So if they don't make enough money, they just they're going to struggle. They might not eat. And the government, what they can do is control the costs. So when you get into costs, let's say. I work that into. It's like apartment here. I'm in the Strato 5. Okay. If you have a visa and you have what's called a cedula, the national ID card, which I do, I can get an unfurnished apartment easier than somebody who doesn't. So an unfurnished apartment, it started off when I got here was like $550 a month. Now it's about $700 a month.
When you say furnished, does that include stove, fridge?
Unfurnished. So unfurnished. I have to adjust a little bit. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. So unfurnished apartments is what the locals typically rent, and those are much less expensive. If it's furnished, like Airbnbs, they charge a premium, so that you might pay 25% more for a furnished apartment. Or 30% more. I'm not sure, but I know it's substantially more. So if you get an Airbnb and you're an expat in Colombia, you're going to pay a premium. You might pay like $1,000, depending on where you're at, or $1,200 a month. While me in an unfurnished apartment, I might pay $650 or $700, and I'll just buy my furniture for whatever I spent, like whatever $3,500, $4,000 for my furniture. Right. But it comes with like the stove and things of that nature. It doesn't come with a refrigerator, washer, dryer, televisions, or furniture like couches,
air conditioner.
Right, it doesn't come with air conditioner. So most places here, a lot of places here, don't even have hot water. So my apartment is pretty nice, I would say.
Even in Medellin.
Even in Medellin.
Wow.
Some buildings. So the locals, when you're talking about it, it's strato. Instead of like 1, 2, or 3, or some of those might not have it unless you have like a tankless water heater, which is very common in Japan. Like I think probably most of the places have tankless water heaters.
Right.
So I have a tankless water heater, hot water. So that's a selling point. I wash and dry hookups, and it has all the amenities that I would have in the United States for a much more affordable cost. So you can take this apartment, and if you put it in Los Angeles, it would be let me see. Let's say right now it's increased about $700 a month, so it'll probably be closer to $3,000 a month in Los Angeles.
What about drinking water? How's it? Can you drink from the tap or?
Oh, definitely. So that's one of the positives here is that the water here is regulated, is tested. So like in Mexico, you can't drink the water out of the tap. And I don't know about all parts of it, but in Medellin, the water is potable. Whatever the pronunciation is, but it's drinkable out of the tap. So if I want to make coffee with water from the sink, I can do that, and it won't make me sick. So it's regulated. So the water is fine. You can drink it with no problem and make coffee with it. So, in Medellin, compared to some other Central or Latin American cities, is I would say the Colombian cities they're nice and modern. The big cities, so it's not you're not going to be really rough it. Some of this, the streets and some of the areas might be a little bit. I should say the sidewalks might be a little bit beat up. If you go to an area of El Poblado, which they consider like the Beverly Hills of Medellin, you're going to have some of the nicer amenities there, the best restaurants where people go, and so they have nice things. But also, you're kind of reminded of the struggle that the local Colombians have, because that's where a lot of the people, the beggars go, or the people who need money. And so I stopped going to El Poblado a lot, and because a lot of the restaurants, they're open air, you have open patio, and you'll get asked a lot for like money, and it's kind of hard to like enjoy yourself eating. I'm sorry.
That's in Medellin.
Yes, in Medellin. So you have the people struggle. You have the middle class Colombians, who still, might struggle somewhat. And then you have the well-to-do people and the expats. So most of the expats are being more with the well-to-do and the wealthier Colombians. But you'll see a lot of poverty in cities, whether it's Bogota or whether it's in Medellin. When you're in it's something you can't ignore, because when you're eating in a restaurant, you have somebody come ask you. And to me, I have a soft spot for kids. So, a kid asked me, can I have some money to, buy soup? In Spanish. So I was like, okay, I told the restaurant owner, go ahead, I'll pay for the soup and drink. And then his friends came by and they were trying to share the same thing. So it was like, we had like 5 or 6 kids on the table next to us, all eating next to us. Because I was like, you know what? I'm not going to just decide who to feed and not to feed when it comes to kids. They're not adults. So we had a table next to us full of kids eating, and they were happy. And it's just me. Some people might say I'm a fool for doing that, but I just don't take the chance that if that's just like in America, some children in the United States, the food that they have at school is the only like hot meal they have a day, every day. It might be the only time they eat. So in Colombia, I'm not going to see a child, starve. If I get played, I get played. But if a child asks me for food, I feed them. But that kind of wears on me, so I don't really go out to eat a lot. I cook at home. If I do, I don't want to be out on the patios typically, because there's a lot of either couples or families that come by and they need money. And I know I can't save everybody. And I know when they have a kid with them, I tend to be kind of like soft-hearted. And some people, you can tell they're not playing you at all, because I only had a little bit of change, and this man asked me for like, a little money. And I didn't have that much, to give him at the time in cash. But this guy, he broke down almost, because he was with his family and his child. And then he wanted to do something for me. So he like opened the car door just to show that he's trying to do something. And not just take a freeload. And another woman, when I sometimes volunteer to go help teach kids English in a disadvantaged neighborhood, and I saw like a woman walking by, older woman, picking up bottles. I tried to give her like a little money. It wasn't that much, and she refused to take it. She wanted to work for it, and that's you'll find a lot of Colombians like that. They don't want to take handouts. They want to actually work and feel like they're earning things. And so, and you have some, they have, just like anywhere else, all opposite ends of the spectrum. Some are just, they'll take you for everything you have. And the other extreme is that you have some people, unless you're going to give them work to do, they're not going to take anything from you. Now, I've met both types of people, including some like my employees. They, when I first, got here, I had an employee who was, struggling, had some debts in the family. So, I just basically I needed assistance, so I offered them a job. And most people of quality, they would rather work for their earnings. And it tells a lot when somebody just wants to take, while another person would rather want to give something in exchange and want to feel like they've earned something.
Now, by the way, speaking on that part, have you ever been to Thailand, like while you were in Japan, or never?
I've been many places in Southeast Asia, but I've never been in Thailand. I've been, Malaysia, Singapore, Bali. I just haven't had like a big interest because, I know Thailand has a lot of culture, but I've just never had that. I want to go there just to see like the sights and the culture. And maybe because most of the time when I was going to Japan, I was either had a local girlfriend when I was single in Japan. Just a side note, she was a dance instructor, so I helped to teach salsa and rapungi while I was there, because I taught salsa in the United States. And or I was married during my first trip to Japan, and I was married to a Japanese woman afterwards, who I met in the U.S. So she's been to Thailand a lot. She loves Thailand, so I would like to go there more for family events. That's why I thought of Thailand as. But since my ex wife had gone to Thailand so many times, we chose other places like Bali, Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, and places like that.
And I never heard Philippines there. You've never been to Philippines too, I guess, right?
Never been to Philippines, but I would like to go to every country out there. I shouldn't say every country, but there's most of the countries in the world I have an interest in going. I've been to about 40, and I wouldn't say one's better than the other, but I'm into like history. That's one of my loves. Culture is another love, and I actually value the differences with people. So even though there's frustrations like here in Colombia, just like there are frustrations in Japan, there might be with certain cultural aspects and also bureaucracies. I tend to believe that if you go to another country, not to impose my values and beliefs on the other country. It is to try to conform. I mean, not in terms of like, if I don't agree with something, I'm not going to adopt it, but I'm going to respect it. Like, let's say, taking your shoes off inside, that's something that's normal in Japan, and I do that in the US. And that's something I'm going to respect. I'm not going to just put my foot down as an American and say, "I know I'm not going to take my shoes off." No. And that's just like, one example. And the same thing here in Colombia, even though there's certain things that are frustrating, I don't bash the culture, because I'm a guest here, just like I was a guest in Japan. I'm not Japanese. I'm not Colombian. I wasn't born there. So instead of like, I had a friend who came here, and he was complaining that there's not a lot of English speakers. Well, I was like, this is their country. If 96% of the people speak Spanish, we need to learn their language. So that's the way I take it. I try to respect the cultures when I go there, and not try to criticize it. And I try to, if it's not, unless it's against my core beliefs, I try to fit in and respect it.
Have you come across a situation where it did go against your core beliefs in a country?
I would say in a lot of there's certain things that really they haven't affected me directly, but in a lot of countries like Mexico on down south, you'll see relationships where there's like an adult and a minor. And so the minors here, we might think of it as kids, and I have both, I'm a father across the spectrum. I have adult children and, teenage also. But I couldn't fathom like an adult with a 15-year-old person. But you'll see that more common in countries in like Mexico, and also down south all the way here to South America. And
how common is that? I'd imagine. Now, how common is that? That's not like seeing a blue moon or something.
I can't quantify it. It's not a blue moon. In fact, I was talking to a friend yesterday and asked her, "What don't you like about the area that you live in?" And that's one of the things she described is having a girl who's basically a teenager and a grown man, and that's just local, some local people, and I can't quantify to say what percentage of the population it is, but she was saying in her area it's something that's not uncommon. And
In teenager, you're talking like 15 or something.
I'm talking like, yes, 15. In fact,
Wow.
I have some Colombian friends who their parents gave birth to them around 15 years of age. And I'm not saying that's like super common because I don't know. I can't speak for that. But
Right.
that's something that would definitely go against my core beliefs. While in the US, I would say, if somebody's over 18, they're considered an adult. They can make their own decisions.
Right.
And there's not an age like bias as I mentioned before.
Mm.
So if you see let's say 45-year-old man here with a 21-year-old girl, nobody in
Right.
Colombia would blink an eye. Now in the US, they were like, you're a dirty old man. How could you do that? But here it's not anything anybody would think anything about in a negative manner. In most people, there's always outlying cases.
Right.
But to me, it just that's something that would be against my core beliefs, and that's something that even though it's happened, locally in the local culture, it's something that they're cracking down, and they're taking a lot of focus on big time with foreigners. And I understand that, some foreigners might say, well, these Colombians do it. Well, this is their country and they have to solve their own problems. They don't need external problems being brought here by foreigners. It's just like, in the US, we have our own issues, but we don't need other people coming to the United States bringing other problems there, because we have there's enough problems to deal with the United States. So I kind of see it from their perspective. And so I'm kind of, I clap back a lot of times in foreigners who are just quick to criticize, Colombians, by being like inefficient. So the United States and efficiency is looked upon higher. Here is very heavily bureaucratic. Like I went to get a driver's license and a motorcycle license. It took about 7 hours. So you have to go from person to person to person to person to person. And my understanding,
the person
like you're gonna go and have all these documents done, fingerprinted by like 4 or 5 different people. You're gonna have to go to get your ears checked. I mean your hearing, vision, psychological check, medical.
So this is all on separate days, eh? For driver's license.
One day, if you could fit it in, it took me 2 days. But understand that the cost, the average, I shouldn't say the average. The minimum wage here is very low. So let's say it comes out to, I don't know if it comes out to $8 to $12 a day. I think some of the laborers, they were talking about a labor wage is like $12 a day. So and so I forgot, it goes up like every year. But let's use it the $12 a day, which is about 50,000 pesos. So I understand that if they're, in order for them to be able to give their people work, they need to keep, employ them doing something. So I can understand why they have so much bureaucracy. So that gives me patience to, to be able to deal with it. If they were to be very efficient and automated everything, you have like all these people without jobs. And who am I, to complain? These people need to work, they need to eat, and this is the way that the government makes it. That's just my assumption. I talked to one of the local Colombian men who helped me out with the process, and he was saying the same thing, that a lot of people criticize Colombia for the inefficiencies, but they don't see the big picture. That if you were to become efficient, automated, you'll be taking jobs away from all these people.
Now, so is that your main? You mentioned the bureaucracy before. Is that basically it in a nutshell, or is there more to it? And as far as your experience, like dealing with kind of hardships, dealing with the bureaucracy over there.
So bureaucracy here is everywhere. Banking, you're gonna have a challenge. Opening up, bank account. It's more. Well, in the U.S., when you open a business bank account all online, and open it up at a branch, it doesn't take very long. You come here, it can be multi-hour process, and they'll go through take your national ID card. If there's anything wrong, they'll reject you. And Colombia hasn't developed a culture of customer service like the U.S.
Mm.
has, and so some Colombians they just don't. Let's put it this way: if you walk into a bank and the manager doesn't like you, no matter what you do, you're not going to get an account open.
Okay.
So
Wow.
it's just like they have that, that level of discretion, and it's
Right.
not about, it's not like customer service where you can just go complain to the manager. They don't,
Mm.
they don't. Some of them don't care. You go to the manager, and the manager tell you the same thing, and your complaints might not go anywhere. And and so it's a challenge. You need to have
Actually.
patience because they don't have a culture of customer service here. In some places like El Poblado, maybe some places have developed it, but it's just something you have to have patience with and understand that.
And it doesn't bother you, eh?
Yeah, it bothers me, of course. If
Mm.
so, I try to adapt to it, not necessarily conform to it in that aspect. I have to, if I need something, I have to deal with it. But when I go to shopping and buying something, I know that it's not like the United States. You can return something for any reason or whatever. I bought a brand new TV, went on in 6 hours. So I
Mm.
took it back, and they tried to give me all this red tape about trying to return it, and I didn't even have a receipt. So, but I buy everything, every major appliance with a credit card.
Mm.
So I have 90 days, to reverse the charge if I need to. And so
Mm.
I called American Express, and I had somebody translate to them that, oh yes, we'll definitely we'll reimburse you for this TV and reverse the transaction right in front of the people that work there.
Mm.
And miraculous, as a miracle, they found
Mm.
out how to credit me back for that television. Well, before it would take an act of God, but they were able to break all those rules that they were telling me that they had to follow
Mm.
because my credit card company says, they're gonna reimburse me for the TV if I wanted to for that transaction. So they were able to credit me back even without a receipt. So that's something that people should be aware of if you're gonna make major purchases. And it's not easy in Japan either.
Mm.
Taking something back. Same thing here in Colombia. So that's something to be aware of.
Now, considering the bureaucracy, especially for younger guys, like you're pretty established, and maybe we could have like a YouTube live or a video on like getting people's money straight, especially since you're familiar with a ton of ways to invest your money. But in terms of for like, let's say you mentioned them before, so 35 and under, for guys looking to go to Colombia who, regardless of your viewpoint, of my viewpoint, or like, you know what, regardless of what they're looking for, whether for dating or fun, I'm out of here. I'm going to Colombia. For someone who doesn't have their money established yet, would you recommend under the age of 35 them going to Colombia just to visit a few times, or even just for years on end, just visit, come back to the States money, visit, come back to the States, make money, or just straight out live there in Colombia?
And I'll give a background why I say like age 35. So what I had like a 21-year-old friend, who was like attractive. So I said, you might like my cousin. Here's a photo of him. I would say he's handsome. And
Right.
so I said, would you like me to, connect you, with him, whatever? And he said, how
Mm.
old is he? And I was like, he's like 35. She's 21. She was like, well, he's borderline too young.
Really?
I get that response from more than one woman. And like I said, nothing's absolute. So it's not saying that a 21-year-old or 30-year-old, 35-year-old can't come here because everybody is in a different position in their lives. I know some people around 35 who are like already early retired.
Mm.
So those people are stable. So I'm not going to say with a blanket statement, but it's something that is looked at more favorably here than it might be in other places. That
Mm.
in terms of like older men, I call it the Don culture. Like Don
Mm.
Juan or Don
Mhm.
Pablo. The Don is seen as somebody who's like experienced, who's economically stable, things of that nature. So they tend to attract some of like the younger women.
So
So
it sounds like maybe even a younger guy shouldn't even visit Colombia then?
no, I'm not saying that at all.
I
I'm
mean, if a
sure, like, I'm right.
21-year-old
My
is turning
son,
him
he's
down
26.
because he's 35, huh?
No, that's just an example. It's not
Right,
absolute, and it's
right.
not all women. Some women, they might prefer that shorter, that tighter. I've seen interviews where women might want 5 or 6 year age gap. So she might be
Colombia?
21. Yes,
Okay.
I've seen some of the YouTubers and other women. They just like they don't have an age gap. They said love has no age limit or something like that.
Hmm.
Well, I would say that if people they grow and they progress at different rates, or they become financially established at different ages. But I
Right.
think one lesson that and it took me a while to get in my 40s, even though I had a good career, but still, it's like when you have like in my area in Los Angeles or Orange County, it's all like 1.2 million or 1.1 million dollars for like the average house price.
Okay. Oh,
So
wow, that big a difference?
yes, it's
That
like only like in California, Southern California, maybe like 11% of people can afford a home. Just
wait. I
11% of the
I have a
population.
question going back. So you said for the average house, first it was 1 million, then 2 million. In
Oh
what
no, I said
year?
1.2. I meant if I said 2 million, I was error. 1.2,
Oh, all
like
right. So that's
1.1 to 1.2 million. So
all
excuse
right.
me if I made
Okay.
that. No, not 2 million, but they do have $2 million houses, and they're not uncommon.
Right.
But let's say average 1.1 to 1.2, and
Hmm.
this is just in Orange County, Southern Orange County, and if you go to Northern Orange County, it's even more expensive.
Hmm.
Um, so with that being said, some people who earn their money maybe on cryptocurrency, or who are like software engineers who work
Hmm.
in Silicon Valley,
Hmm.
they've they might have made a fortune when they're younger, so they're below age 35, so they can come here and live pretty well.
Hmm.
But one of the what I was taught in this business school
Hmm.
was that and it actually changed my life, because even
Hmm.
though I was doing well, but still, most of the money I was making, even though I was living in LA as an engineering manager, doing very well. So some people would say, wow, you must be have no financial problems at all. But
Hmm.
when you have to pay, I had to pay for two homes. I had a home in San Diego and a home in Orange County, at all these expenses. But having, kind of the mentorship of seeing, talking about seven streams of income,
Right.
how the average millionaire has seven streams of income, and
Hmm.
that should be your goal.
Hmm.
Instead of like, one of the gentlemen who taught a module in the class, he was
Hmm.
saying having a job and focusing just on a career, it's like having your own business with one customer. When they
Hmm.
get tired of you, you're done.
Right.
But so if you treat your job as one stream of income, and you try
Hmm.
to develop six other ones, maybe it
Hmm.
could be cryptocurrency, maybe it could be real estate,
Hmm.
investing in homes, maybe it could be a side hustle,
Hmm.
or it could be like a second job, or it could be residual income.
Hmm.
Is So that kind of changed my way of seeing life. So if I lost my job, I still have six other streams of income to prop me up. I'm not out of the game. So that's something that once I kind of took that to heart, is when things kind of turned around for me, and I felt comfortable when I needed to when it came to when I had to retire early because of disability. So I
Hmm.
wasn't wasn't to worry, because I shifted my focus from thinking of things, having all these nice things, having to buy top of the end things.
Hmm.
I just thought about, to me, I'm building, a stream of income, or I'm building something for generational wealth, for for my my children's children and things of that nature. So it shifted my focus. So I try to make sure that every dollar I meet, or sorry, every dollar that I make, I want to flip it. So what Warren
So,
Buffett said, he has a quote. He said, "Unless you learn to make money while you sleep, you're going to work until the day you die."
so what are some specific streams of incomes you can give examples of for some younger guys trying to get financially stable?
So one of the most common you'll see in expats,
Hmm.
it's private military. So either they retire early or they have like VA disability.
Hmm.
So that right there is some income you get for the rest of your life. So let's say that's one stream. Another
Okay.
one could be
Wait,
like
you said
investment,
you said what? A disability, right?
like VA disability or military retirement. So you can
Okay.
retire from the military at, let's say, age 38, over 20 years.
Right.
And you're going to have that retirement, the rest of your life, or you're going to have VA disability the rest of your life. And with that comes health care. So let's say, to me, I'm a disabled veteran, 100%
Okay.
permanent total. So that
Hmm.
takes a big strain off of me because I don't
Yeah.
have to worry about medicines, medical, things of that nature. So that's a stream of income. Another one, let's say if you have 401k and
Hmm.
if you're at the age where you can withdraw from that, if you have retirement, if you don't have retirement, you want to expect to come to a country like Colombia,
Right.
with some kind of ideas because 5,000 won't do much for you in the U.S., but like $5,000 can start your business here.
Hmm.
And so that's one stream of income. And in fact, one of the YouTubers that you pulled up his picture like yesterday, he came here with nothing. He basically
Are you
got
talking about the one that my friend also
yes, he has an
uh
amazing story. He basically came here with nothing, and he's built himself up. Several businesses. So he has multiple streams of income. He has several businesses in Colombia. He owns like 5 Airbnbs, and he's just like a local success story that I admire because he saw where he was when he came here, and he had a
hmm.
vision of where he wanted to be, and he invested in himself so that he can to be able to live in the upper level of Colombian
Hmm.
society. So
Oh,
it can be done.
Medellin Bugs.
I'm sorry. Yes,
Medellin
Medellin.
Bugs. Okay.
Yeah, he's a great Andrew.
Right.
So he's a great channel, and he's a real person. He tells it like it is, and
Hmm.
his story. Look, if you watch his videos, he'll tell you his background about
Hmm.
how he basically got deported. He's a native born Colombian. His family went there when he was younger. He just
Hmm.
happened to get deported, Bogota, and he's basically was able to rebuild his life. And he invests in different types of. I don't want to tell all this business that he shared with me,
Right.
but not just real estate. He invests in other items. It could be stocks or things of that nature. I won't get into specifics. And also he has several businesses. And the way I found met him was that one of his businesses was called the like a master class for Medellin masterclass. So I joined it. So he has some classes that you can basically take that how to get health insurance, how to rent an apartment, without like a cosigner or
Hmm.
what do you call a fiador here? Somebody has to cosign for you, things of that
Right.
nature. So it goes on all of the different aspects that you'll need to be able to transition to a life in Colombia, and
Hmm.
about the pros and cons. And he kind of tells it like it is. And actually I've gone to some real estate events with him. At
Hmm.
least, well, I went to one where I could learn how to get into. I want to get into not just I have some real estate management business in the United States,
Hmm.
but I want to get into real estate development. So actually
Hmm.
build projects from the ground up. And so this is if you want to know some of the details about Medellin, Andrew has a great channel, and
Hmm.
wanted so like I mentioned, investing in myself.
Hmm.
It was I had to pay I was considered a substantial amount of money to to join the group,
Hmm.
but it wasn't it was investing in myself and also paying to join into a private network
Hmm.
and people who take it seriously because
Right.
it's over $1,000. So if you're going
Right.
to and that keeps out the people who are
Absolutely.
just not serious about it.
Right.
And and he should be compensated on the accumulation of knowledge that he's made over the his time here,
Hmm.
and he'll prevent people from running in time's money. So he'll prevent
Right.
people from wasting time, going down rabbit holes and things of that nature.
Hmm.
So you see
Yeah.
that 2,000 per month right there.
Say again.
You see the 2,000 per month.
Yeah, I see it.
So just like I was mentioning, like 2,000 a month, you can live, a good life in Medellin. And
Right.
also some of the things he says he bought 5 apartments, just like I mentioned, and
Mm.
he has a cross out on the sex tourists. He'll talk about some of the trends in Colombia and how they're moving, and it's moving away from they want the image of Colombia to be, because Medellin's a very innovative city. They've
Mm.
gotten they've gotten awards for innovation
Mm.
with their, like I said, their public transportation,
Really?
their
When you say so in Medellin, so like their train system is great, or what about their public transportation?
well, they have a nice metro. It's very nice, and the people here, they really respect it, so they don't trash it or anything like that.
Okay.
And they're proud of it because it goes from like other cities, we call them maybe like suburbs, because they're actual separate cities from Medellin. Like
Mm.
let's say Bejo is a different city, Envigado,
Mm.
Sabaneta. Those are outlying areas, and some people make the mistake of saying that they're part of Medellin, but they're not. Loreto is where I live at, is part of Medellin. El Poblado is part of Medellin. Envigado is not. It's its own actual city.
Mm.
So like the metro system, it might only cost you like 70 something cents to get on it and go from one end to the other, or whatever it is.
Mm.
Or I'm not sure. I've never written it because I'm disabled, so I have to.
Right.
I take mostly Ubers. And
Mm.
Uber, since we're talking about economy, one of the things you could mention is like Uber. A typical Uber ride around Medellin,
Mhm.
unless you're going to the airport, you're probably not going to spend. You'll spend $7 on the high end,
Mm.
going from one end of Medellin to the other one. But an average ride might only be $2 or $3.
Right.
So Uber is very affordable. You don't need a car,
Mm.
but you have to be aware that Uber. I'm not sure. It's not totally legal. It's somewhat of a gray area. So
Mm.
if you order Uber taxi, um, that's totally fine. If you order just like an Uber Comfort or something like that, they're
Mm.
going to want you to sit in the front seat of the car so that the police don't, like pull them over and start questioning them, because they can get in trouble.
Right.
Um, so I'm not sure exactly how that has progressed in
Mm.
legality,
Mm.
but for some reason the app is allowed to function, but I haven't gotten a clear explanation if it's actually legal.
Right.
But
So. Mm.
Uber is like it's a affordable transportation here. The metro system is affordable, and actually, the metro system is actually faster in some regards when you're going from one end of Medellin to the other one, because traffic here is horrible.
I
Bogota
see.
and Medellin are horrible traffic.
So a Uber, 20 minutes on an Uber would cost you how much?
20 minutes. Let me see. My Uber ride this morning was maybe like 17 minutes, and it might have been about 12,000 pesos, which is $2 and something.
Yeah, that's cheap. That's crazy cheap.
It's crazy.
Um.
So I don't even, and I don't, like having to take out, cash all the time. So I just
Right.
like have it linked to my credit card, and just, and it's not much of a tipping culture here, but I do tip. Uh, try to get Uber drivers a tip, because, then they kind of, get accustomed that when they come to my building, that, they'll give me, better results.
Okay.
But let me see, for someone
If
going to
you
like,
didn't tip, what would the result be?
well, because I'll give you an example. I went to a high-end hotel,
Mm.
and like I said, the customer service is bad.
Right. Well, in a
However,
high-end hotel, the customer service is bad.
it still was bad because it was a
Wow.
Colombian high-end hotel. It wasn't like an international hotel.
Right.
But like, and a woman came in, she had like kind of attitude. She brought me room service,
Right.
and she was like, oh, and she wasn't the most friendly. But I gave her a tip. The woman came back and like say she brought me like extra French fries.
Mm.
She's like, here, this is normal, senor, but no, senor, I'm not going to give you normal. Here, here's extra French fries, and here's call me for any. Her attitude totally changed
Right.
because instead of being, stuck with minimum wage,
Mm.
even though that whatever that dollar or two extra,
Mm.
that 4,000 to 8,000 pesos or whatever it was,
Mm.
it might not seem much to me, but for
Mhm.
her, like I mentioned, if she's only making $12 a day, she's
Right.
just like now she's making $14 a day, and to her that's
Well, if we're
significant.
making $12 a day, that's less. Wow. Okay.
So let's say it might be more. I don't know, but that's I believe $12 a day would be above minimum wage.
Yeah.
So it's like it used to be when I moved here 2 years ago, $8 a day was minimum wage. So
Jesus
so
Christ.
for us, $2 is nothing. For but to a local Colombian, that $2 can mean a lot to them. So
Wow.
it's hard. I keep that in perspective. So when I do a tip, like 4,000 like pesos, which is like a dollar to them,
Oh,
the cab driver. It's like I mentioned, I'm disabled, so
right.
so I walk with a cane. So the cab driver, they'll come and take my bags out the car and take them up the stairs for me because they
Mm.
appreciate it.
Right.
So I do it for like a purpose too, because they
Mm.
they tend to give me extra appreciation because nobody
Right.
wants to just take it. They want to, show that they appreciate it.
Right. Right. That's the general consensus, the mindset that they have over there in Colombia, that they want
Most
to.
people, because they don't. Most Colombians, like normal Colombians, don't really tip. Local
Mm.
Colombians don't really. It's not much of a tipping culture. They might give a little bit, but you'll see they call it propina. So
Okay.
it'll either be in the some in higher end restaurants or whatever. It'll be included in the bill. It might be
Mm.
included in the bill in other restaurants. But if they do a good job and they're very attentive, I'll give them even a little extra above that because it's usually less than 10%. So I'll give them, an extra percentage, and it's like magnitude of scale. If you have a high end meal or whatever, and it's like 20 something bucks,
Mhm.
so what if I give them some extra? While
Right.
some people's aspect, don't mess up Colombia. Don't try to hook them up extra and get them used to it.
Mm.
But I think of it in coming from, I guess you say, a humble black background.
Mm.
So this $2 extra might not, like I said, it doesn't mean much to me, but it could mean a lot to that person.
Mm. Now, now before we mentioned, you mentioned the seven streams of income thing. Could you like elaborate on that? Like, for example, when you say seven streams of income, are you saying just like have seven houses with tenants paying you from each house? I know you mentioned the retirement is one. So, you know, because seven streams, when you said seven streams, do you mean seven different buckets or can they all be the same bucket? What do you mean by seven streams of income?
It's kind of left up to your own interpretation whether you consider it seven houses, but I wouldn't consider that. I
Like,
would consider real
what
estate
was it
as.
that you meant when you said seven streams? I was
So
just
I
getting
think more of diversification.
okay.
So one stream of income, well, let's say if you have like you have a day job, say you work for a corporation, that's one
Okay.
stream of income.
So I'll put that
Let's
in
say
there.
you have a teaching job on the at night, that would be a second stream of income.
Okay.
Third stream of income, maybe it's cryptocurrencies. Some cryptocurrencies they actually pay staking rewards like dividends. Uh,
All right.
Fourth stream of income could be growth in income funds like mutual funds. So you can that could be another stream of income. Another one could be real estate.
Wait. All right. So growth in what kind of funds?
Like a growth in income,
Okay.
like mutual fund.
Like a S&P 500 or something.
It could be, yes. So they pay dividends. Like
All right.
another one. Let's think of another one could be like some people like to day trade. That could be day trading or trading, stock
All right.
trading. That could be another stream. It's kind of like to me. I'm not able to like work due to health conditions like a full time job. So I
Mm.
try to look at residual income, and I try not to. And I'm not like actually allowed to make extra income. So
Right.
what I do is like it goes into the business and it's saved for like future my children and their children.
Mm.
So because I'm already good with sustaining myself.
Mhm.
So whatever I considered the first 40 something years of my life, that's where I had to build myself up. And now
Mm.
that I'm secure in myself, and I'm able to take care of the needs of my family,
Mm.
going forward, I'm looking at, I don't want to have like grandchildren, great grandchildren who had to start from kind of like ground zero, kind of
Mm.
like where I did, who grew up, experiencing poverty, who
Mm.
actually, I had to go to military because, in a way, because I was hungry. I wanted to eat, get,
Mm.
3 meals a day and get paid, stuff like that. So that's kind of was my determining factor. And
Right.
also, I wanted to go to, college and study, and the military would help me. So that was why, one of the reasons I joined, the military.
Mm.
And another stream of income, it could be like military retirement or VA disability. So it's this. It could be 50 different things. It kind of what suits the way I think about it is that you want to be diversified. You don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. So you don't want to count 7 homes as one stream of income, even if they do that. Even they can be counted as that, but when you're in a one, you're not diversified. When they had like the housing crisis, I
Mm.
lost a third of the value of my home.
Okay.
I was upside down. So, but if you're diversified, you reduce the risk.
So what were you doing before that business class that you were saying? What was your money strategy or lack of?
I was searching and investing in myself, and I was thinking because I was looking at it, the way it was going. If I stayed in just corporate America and just did what I was doing and just putting money in a 401k, I
Mm.
would be like everybody else, retire at age 65. I didn't want to retire at age 65. I wanted to retire in my 40s.
Mm.
So, 50 at the latest. And so that's why I invested in myself. I paid for this. It's called the Black Business School, and
I
that's how I
know
found
it's
out
my
about
first time
managing.
hearing about this. It's called. How did you hear about this Black Business School thing?
Well, it was the person who actually started it. He's a little controversial, but Dr. Boyce, like Watkins, I would listen
Oh,
to some of
really?
the live streams.
Mm.
So, but one thing about so I went to some of Dr. Boyce is like his online classes. I listened to his live streams,
Mm.
and it was like right when Trump got elected.
Mm.
So I was like, I need to secure myself because I'm feeling kind of insecure right now.
Financially, you're
Financially.
feeling insecure.
I'm sorry.
You're feeling insecure financially, or what?
Well,
When
no,
you
I
say,
was, I was, I would say I was still like a high earner, but I wanted to be not just a high earner, but I wanted to be a person who can, build enough wealth to retire at a early enough age where I can enjoy life. But politically, I felt a little bit insecure
oh,
when Trump got elected.
oh, okay, okay.
So I wanted to kind of like insulate
You wanted
myself.
to cover it because you felt like the government could have a huge effect on your life.
Yes,
Okay.
and but now I feel less that way.
Mm.
Reason being, the more I would say financially secure that you become, the less
Mm.
you worry about the political changes as much.
Mm.
Because what's going to happen, whether it's a Democrat or it's a Republican that gets in office, you're still going to be going to work next day. You're still going
Mm.
to have to buy groceries. The price of
Exactly.
goods
That's
are not
my
going to change.
mindset. That's why I don't really
Yeah, it's not
get
going to
into
change much.
politics. Right.
There's might be a few advantages or disadvantages, but the more that you kind of like, if you're like, some people just think saving is the way to go, but to me, it's like I want to invest. I want my money to grow.
Right.
I want it to grow while I sleep. So
Mm.
I just, invest. And as you become, I guess you can have more financial security.
Right.
The problems don't bother you as much because you're able to weather those storms that come up.
Mm.
While what they say, the average American doesn't even have like $400 in their bank account or
Mm.
savings. Um, so you want to. I should say I can only speak for myself. I'm not trying to give financial advice, but I wanted
Right.
to get to the point where if something did come up, unforeseen
Mm.
circumstances, I would be able to weather those financial storms. If I wanted to move to a foreign country, just like I did now,
Right.
it wouldn't be an issue because I'm able to support myself. I'm able to get an apartment. I'm able to pay for utilities,
Right.
and not only take care of my life here, but also take care of my family members back in the United States.
All right.
And this starts off the reason I've said 7 streams of income because that can apply to anybody. You don't
Right.
need to have 20 years in a career like like I did in the past. You can start
Right.
at any age. In fact, I started my daughter off at age like 4,
Mm,
investing in cryptocurrency and stocks. We would
interesting.
I pay so she we would you know I think we subscribed to a magazine called Jacks online, and we would
Jack.
look at the Jacks. I think it's JACKS. So it would give you the evaluation of the different stocks, whether it was a strong buy, strong sell, a hold, or a buy or sell.
Mm,
And I
right.
would teach her about that. And so we would evaluate what stocks that we had purchased,
Mm,
and we would say, okay, it's this one's now went from hold to a strong buy.
mm,
We should buy more, and we would try to diversify.
mm,
And some of these concepts is what I learned into the Black Business School because they basically tell us that when you go to a university and you go to business school, they teach you how to
mm.
work for somebody else and to go up somebody else's corporate ladder. But the Black Business School was geared towards entrepreneurship and building your own like financial and generational wealth, and that's what attracted me.
Okay. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, yeah, I mean, I definitely, I think everything needs its place.
Mm-hmm.
I'll post a video about when I was day trading and stuff, but if you start the day with no money, you got to start somewhere. So yeah, business school is kind of like my friends. I have friends who are living abroad that went to business school, and they were able to make money from their business school and then live abroad. But there's a lot of ways you can get it. So it's just another path. Now we can really get lost in the weeds with school. I always see both sides of the argument on every coin.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like I think each topic would deserve its own focus.
Actually,
Um,
this ties into Medellin, and I'll tell
right.
you why. Because actually, Boyce Watkins' brother
Mm,
Lawrence is the one who was in Medellin. He was posting on
right.
Facebook about how economical it was for him, and so I contacted him about
Mm,
Medellin, and that's the reason I chose to come here.
mm,
Number two was that with the Black Business School, it was
mm,
interesting because I networked with people, and those
mm.
same people, we branched off and started our own businesses, and some of them were my customers. And we
Interesting.
actually formed a group where um, we formed like a kind of like a lending organization where
Mm,
we would take small businesses,
mm,
and we would lend to them as a group to help them
mm.
to get started. So, and these were all students from the Black Business School. So it was kind of interesting. It wasn't just a formal university. This was just his separate, um,
Right.
condensed version. So
But
it's not a
kudos
university.
kudos to you for taking control. Like my whole thing is like don't talk about it, be about it, take action, invest in it, whether it's time or money.
Mhm.
So you're like, hey, I want to take action, and then this is the route you took, and it worked out for you. And then it's great just to see guys see someone like you who is living abroad, who is enjoying it more compared to America, regardless of opinions or perceptions. Like, I haven't encountered the ladies you've dealt with, you haven't encountered the ladies I've dealt with. So, like, you decided to take action and you're able to take advantage of going where you want to live and you're not financially held back. And I'm sure that, the business school and learning about the 7 streams of income, like, has had a major impact. It sounds like it for you. It sounds like you're way more comfortable now. And just the fact that you don't really, whatever happens politically, it's not going to affect you. That's a beautiful place to be. And I hope a lot of people can find themselves in that place.
A lot of it was meeting like-minded individuals, and that to me was the most important. Not just learning the concept. There's only a few concepts I learned that
Right.
really I took to heart, but
Mhm.
by finding these networking with these like-minded individuals,
Right.
we were able to make financial gains together. Like one gentleman, he needed to get start a trucking company. He gave us a proposal, and like I mentioned, we got together, five of us who were from the Black Business School. We funded it. We got him the money for to buy like 6 trucks,
What was
and
your ROI on that?
it was very good. I'll tell you offline because it would be great. You wouldn't believe me if I
Return
told
on
you.
investment. People will be
It was
shocked.
a, it was a very it was one of the best, one of the top besides investing in some cryptocurrencies. It was probably the best business investment that I've made because he's a like-minded individual. He wanted to keep to circulate dollars within the community.
Right.
So he
Okay.
wanted everybody to eat. So he
I,
would
I,
eat.
I'll ask you this because I don't want to open you up because you are in Colombia and, I don't want to make you, or make people incorrectly perceive you as that guy with the money. But was the initial investment low enough for you to say online or maybe talk offline on that?
The investments was between let's say 25 to 50,000.
Okay.
That's 25 to 50,000. So
Right.
it,
Yeah, I mean
I think some
that's
people got
one
in for
thing.
15.
That's one thing I'll add for anyone watching, like during stream or outside the stream, is you got to start with something. So, like, I've been moving, dealing with a lot of stuff here in Japan. That's why I do the live stream. So I haven't had a chance to post many investment videos. But if I say I made like 40 grand in a year, like best believe, like if I trade with 20 grand, it's a lot easier to make 40 grand than if I'm trading with like $500 in my account. So I would say the first step is have your money to a certain level. Start with the basics. Let's crawl before we can walk in life. And I think going back to what you say with Medellin, with guys taken advantage of, or I think some of them end up getting deleted, like they lose their life sort of in Colombia when they're dealing with the two women, or is that another country?
No, that's happened in Colombia. That's like a red flag when you meet a woman and she has like a friend and they want to bring their friend along. That's
Right.
definitely a red flag. Um, One
Yes.
of the things, if we can go back to an investment part, a simple concept that people
Yeah.
do not, it's called dollar cost averaging.
Okay.
It just, it just, if you take something that, let's say you spend $25 a week in Starbucks.
Hmm.
If you start with there and you dollar cost average, whether it's cryptocurrency or stocks, and you just do that every once a week, and you do that continuously, you'll be amazed at how much you can do over time, over 6 months, how much you're going to
Yeah.
accumulate. So just something simple like that.
But
Now,
T-Mac,
back to
everybody wants it fast. Everybody wants it now. You know,
you. Sometimes you
go
have to
ahead.
build it one brick at a time and have patience and just you set on you get an app or whatever, set it on
Yeah.
auto invest and just let it do it. Forget about it. Just let it just do what it does.
Yeah, I
And
think your way is very helpful because there's a book, I forgot the name of the book. It's called something like 10 Ways to Become a Millionaire or 10 Roads to be a Millionaire or something. And for example, one road is to marry rich. So if you're a girl or maybe a Don Juan, you want to marry a rich woman or, marry rich, and then whether through divorce or alimony or it's an extreme way, but there's a bunch of ways. There's a slow and steady way, right? So, but the dollar cost averaging is huge because not everybody sort of has the stomach to kind of make money fast, right? So if I needed to make money fast, I go to New York right now, or I'd even in here in Tokyo. If I needed to make money, regardless of how, no matter how annoying it was, I can get up and make six figures now, but I'd have to eat a lot of shit, for lack of a better words, to make that six figures. And whether you're skilled or not, even let's say someone's making 40 grand, right? Let's say you have two 30-hour a week jobs, or maybe let's include the commute, 40-hour-a-week jobs. Like people have enough time in the day to work for 80 hours a week. Even if there are like jobs as a doorman, you can make 6 figures that way. But that would take up your whole life for a year. So I think concepts like you're talking about, T-Mac, especially if people want to enjoy their life while they're making money, and if they don't want to go through a hustle life, that dollar cost averaging, right? Like that's huge, right? So have you heard, T-Mac, have you heard of the compounding effect
Oh
and
yes,
the doubling penny?
yes, and about the doubling penny and like the rule of seven and
Right.
for like many concepts, and they all go back to the fact that like that Warren Buffett quote,
Mm,
unless you like like learn to make money while you sleep, you're going to work until the day you die. And just because you dollar cost average, that's only one way of building up your wealth.
mm,
You go back to 7 streams of income and you go investing in yourself and learning new ways. But everybody's different. So what works for you? If you have a passion for something, you're going to
mm,
have a higher chance of being more successful. Just like if your
mm,
passion is in different area than mine.
mm,
And
mm,
so I would have to figure out what gives me comfort, what I enjoy doing, and that's what
mm,
I'm going to be most successful at. And that's
mm,
what I should invest in.
mm,
And so I invest in myself. I try to you know, keep my glass half full, not to
mm,
keep it, when you're full, you can't pour any more water in. But if you have a half full glass, you're always able to, to take in more water or information. So you
right,
have to
right.
try to keep it, some humility and not, think that we know it all. So I know I don't know it all.
Mm,
And instead of, do that crab in a barrel mentality, I try to, if somebody else is successful in something,
mm,
just like Andrew, he's successful in real estate down here in Colombia. So I
right,
wanted to
right.
pick his brain,
Mm,
not down a person. Because when I started, looking into cryptocurrency, people told me how stupid I was to invest in it.
right,
And once I got in 2017, and when I had some success, I took out my
right,
original investment. And people were telling me how stupid I am, how I was going to lose everything. I said, how can I lose everything when I took out my original investment? I said,
right.
explain it to me. And people were just
Because
concerned.
they wanted to jump in and talk before they hear the whole story. But who has time to explain the whole story? And those people probably didn't invest the 1,000 or whatever to get into school, or put up to 25 to 50 into that high ROI investment vehicle that you did. So that's probably why they're saying it. But that's kind of like when, sometimes when people try to give me advice, I'm like, well, if you want to wake up at 7 a.m. with me 2 days a week, on schedule, and have a conversation when I'm ready for it, that's why I don't really talk about, yes, what you say, don't talk, there are people who talk about what they don't know. But piggybacking off what you said, because I think there's a very important point you made, but we didn't really spend that much time talking about it. But the point you made, like the people who you surround yourself with. So like there's the people who are kind of looking at your move and kind of saying how to do it, but there's actually people making the moves with you.
Mhm.
And I think when you're making moves and there are people who are actually literally making the moves with you, it kind of makes more sense to have a conversation with those people about what you're doing, no? As opposed to that crab in the bucket mentality being like just arguing with you for no reason. Like they're not even making the move with you. You're like, it doesn't make sense to explain over again because you only have 24 hours in a day, right, T-Mac? You
Right.
can't really explain to that person saying, oh, that cryptocurrency is not going to work, blah, blah, blah. Like you have other stuff going on in your life, right?
Yes.
So,
And I tried to, time is to me is valuable because after I came down with became
mm,
eh, auto accident, illness,
mm,
disability. I kind of saw my mortality, and I appreciate the time I have.
right,
Not that I'm terminal or anything, but
right.
at one time I did think I was my lifespans would be cut short.
Mm,
But the people I try to surround myself with quality people and not
mm,
just I don't need to be around the people that are popular who have you know, things that other people might think exciting going on. They get invited to nice parties or whatever. I
Mm,
want to get with people who I can learn from and
mm,
who I can trust and who
mm.
are like quality people
Right.
who that, that when I, turn my back on a person, I know that they're not going to plot for my,
Demise.
negative things that happen,
Right.
demise. So, and so I've met, some, a few quality people, and
Mm,
we support each other. And if I need advice from one of the people, she's really successful. I don't know how many properties she owns, like in the
mm,
United States, like about
mm.
15, and she has
Right.
like a medical type degree
Right.
and everything. And so this woman is very, dynamic, and we've
Mm,
had the type of trust that if I bring to her like an investment idea, she
mm,
takes it very seriously. And she was able to invest in one of the projects I taught you, small business projects I talked to
mm,
you about,
mm,
and so we have that kind of rapport.
mm,
And it's just that so we built on mutual respect and trust, and the fact that we can learn and grow from each other. And
mm,
I could care less about the people who go to like have such a great time every weekend and all this other
mm,
kind of stuff. To me,
mm,
having a great time is being secure in my future and my financial stability, that I can handle negative things that happen in my life.
mm. That's
And I can
great.
go on vacations. I like, I can, travel wherever, I want to, in the world. So if I want
Mm,
to go over to Europe, next week I can do that, as long
mm,
as, my family's taken care of in terms of like, taking, my daughter to school or dance or something like that. To me, that's
right.
very important. But
Mm.
I have the ability to do that,
Man
even if
lifestyle.
I'm sorry.
Grown man lifestyle.
Well, take care of, because when you're my responsibility to me, that's like not just a job being a parent, but you're teaching somebody else to be able to survive, contribute to society.
Mm,
And what you teach, the qualities and the values that you teach, that my children, is what they're gonna bring forward. And with the negative stereotypes that black families get, and that we're one of the, I say, black people have some of the, they can be attacked, and it's considered, with stereotypes, and it's accepted. And I've heard, even here in Medellin, I've had people regurgitate negative
mm,
stereotypes about black people, saying that, oh, you black people are not very articulate, very few. And this person's not even from the U.S., saying this, and I was deeply offended. And
mm.
I was like, I think I know more black people than you do from the United States, and I know many articulate black men, many successful, well, out of
Who
his
are
own.
these people talking about this? Like, I don't know if it's because I'm not, I am half black, but who are these? Like, I don't hear about race a lot, but like, who are these? Where are these race conversations coming up?
It just, so like you're having a conversation with someone,
Mm,
and I think some of it might be cultural ignorance, but I think a person who's ignorant of a culture and who's willing to find out the truth, at least I can deal with people like that. If
mm,
you show them that what they're thinking is like a total
right.
misconception from the media. But some people just double down, and they're just like, no, that's just like what we hear, and that's what I hear from these other non-black expats. It's how black men are. It's how you are. And I was like, I
Wow,
guarantee you, no
this
more.
is in Colombia.
No, yes, yes, I have receipts. So it's not just something that I'm just like
Did
making
you
up.
experience this in Japan? Because I don't know if I'm just not.
And I don't experience it a lot of times from locals. It's mostly from expats. That
Okay.
so in Medellin has a lot of expats.
Mm,
We have black, but mostly non-black. But
okay.
as I mentioned before, we get negatively stereotyped, and so even though let's say some people call themselves passport bros, they're just looking for like nothing nefarious or bad, and but you have
Uh,
other people who of many different demographics or racial backgrounds who call themselves passport
okay.
bros, who might promote a lifestyle that's more pay for play, but the other group gets
Yeah. I
demonized because of it.
yeah. I don't know, T Mac. Like, if I ever like, I know these people. I know there are people exist that kind of have the conversations about that, but whenever I come across it, me personally, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't even entertain, man. There's always going to be people, with these wild ideas, but they exist. So I think there's different types of people out there. I'm not really like I don't really like. There's a lot of fights that I choose to pick in life, but that's not one of them. But I'm sure it's super annoying when you find yourself embroiled with it. I know if I found myself alone in a room with someone staying like that and I couldn't get out of the room,
Mhm.
I would be annoyed. So I definitely hear your frustration with that.
Yeah, you hit the nail around the head. It's something that a topic that I would rather not talk about or bring up,
Right.
but when you're like inundated with it and you see it
Yeah.
like all over YouTube and you see all these viewers, and when they come to Colombia, they see you, first thing they see, a lot of people, oh, a black man. He's not about anything because he's just here to go to,
Yeah,
they ask me, oh, you
like
go to
I'm,
Park.
I'm kind of curious now, T Mac, to just visit Colombia just to see if I encounter this
Oh, come
kind of
on, we have a spare bedroom.
huh?
I have a spare bedroom, so you can visit
All right, cool. Medellin, right?
Medellin. You can
Cool.
see it, and I'm
Yeah,
not, some experiences might be the same and some might not be. It kind of depends on who you. Um,
yeah, man.
sometimes,
Like it would be interesting if I went there. I'd hang out with you. I'd hang out with my other friend that I met in business school. I'd maybe hang out with Medellin Buzz. So it'd be pretty
Medellin.
interesting. Yeah, Medellin Buzz. Yeah, thank you for correcting me. And Colombia, folks, with a Colombia, not spelled like other Colombia.
Almost like gaijin, instead of gaijin, in Japan you say Medellin.
Right. Medellin, guys, Medellin. But yeah, cool. I mean, I think this is very helpful for the people. I know I found it pretty informative. I feel like I understand Medellin a lot better now. Is there anything else you want to say in terms of top around this topic that we've
No,
covered today?
one thing I would say is that people write all types of things online, whether it's on Facebook or other social medias. They
Right.
give their opinions, but don't always. I see people take other people's opinions, and it's obvious they've never been to Colombia because they
Mm,
can't even spell it right, and
mm,
or they don't know how to spell it right, and they say
mm,
all negative things about it. And this is
mm.
all based upon people's opinions, but very few of them ask people who actually live here, who are expats, and they
Right.
hear negative things about it, and they get this negative viewpoint from people who come down here, for a short period of time,
Right.
and
Right.
who engage in risky behavior. So if you engage in risky behavior,
Mm,
if you play around with fire or with matches or with gasoline, you should expect a higher chance of getting burned. But
mm,
my my mother, my has been here twice. My other family members have been
mm,
here before, and they all loved it. They didn't have any
mm,
incidences, and some of them stood out a lot. Like
mm.
in they walked in my neighborhood, nothing happened to them
Right.
alone. So people should not be deterred from visiting
Mm,
some place because of the reputation.
right.
If you want to realize, if you want to find out how a place is,
Mm,
talk to people who actually have a visa, who actually live there, and
mm,
don't just go off of what you just like hear online, because
right.
people don't usually tell the whole story when something bad happens to them. They
Mm,
don't tell you all of the things that led up to them. If they went on Tinder and they got scoped, sometimes it could be they did not follow the social rules. They
mm,
were engaged, and with invited two women back to like their Airbnb.
mm.
And a lot of times these are organized by these women are paid by criminal gangs, so
Oh.
and they're given these drugs by these criminal gangs, so they
Mm,
can help and this has been exposed on, like, you see places like Obiland or whatever. They,
Mm,
they show this happens. So I would encourage you to, like, actually talk to people who live there for a certain amount of
mm,
time before you make your decision. And if you don't want to come, fine. Is life's too short to be too afraid
mm.
and be worried. So if you're too afraid to come to Colombia from what you hear, don't come. There's other places in the world, but
Right.
if you want, I enjoy my life here, and
Mm,
I plan on extending my visa, and
nice.
regardless of what anybody says.
Nice. Well, great, great. Sounds like a great way to cap it off. I think a very good message, very helpful message for everybody to take in. Yeah, because there's a lot of noise. You got to be open-minded and not just judge based off just one viewpoint, right?
はい、ありがとうございます。
Yeah. All right, cool. You can hear me okay still, right?
はい。
Cool. Okay. All right. And there's this
I wanted to show
Japanese.
my Japanese since I still
Yeah,
remember some of it.
very impressive. Very good pronunciation. All right,
ありがとう
cool.
ございます。
Well, yep. Arigatou gozaimasu, guys. Yeah, you can leave any comments if you're watching this stream after or during. We'll see you next time. The rain might be stopped, so there might be a live stream later on today, depending on how things go on. But we will have another one soon, and I will start working on a video as soon as we get set up. T-Mac, thank you for everything today. I'll hit you up offline, and yeah, I'll just say deuces for lack of a better word.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity to come in and talk on your channel. Appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks, T-Mac. All right, guys. Take care. End stream.